Hello everyone, this is Marine. Thank you so much for joining me on this new Learn Fun video. Today's card is going to feature some cute snow builders, a fun snowball fight, and a magical pink winter landscape. So let's see what we need to create our little scene. We have a snowball fight with most of the images, Yeti or not for the Christmas tree and another tree, Winter Village for the pile of snow and one more tree, all the speech bubbles for 2 speech bubbles, Penguin Party for the Have a Very Cool Christmas greeting. We have Your Snow Much Fun from the Simply Celebrate Winter Critters add-on, the Reveal Wheel die set, the second simple wavy banner die, the second small stitched circle stackable die, the largest outside-in stitched rectangle stackable die, the largest stitched rectangle stackable die, and I am going to use this paper from the Candy Cane Lane 6x6 paper pack. And this paper was my inspiration for today's purple pinkish color palette. So I usually start with the coloring, but today I am going to create the background first. I am going to tuck the Reveal Wheel Art Window die at the top of my Reveal Wheel panel die. I am using washi tape to keep both dies together, and I am going to cut my panel out of Strathmore Bristol smooth cardstock. And now that I have my die cut panel, I am going to place it on my sticky mat with all the images on top. And I am going to divide my panel in 3 sections. I'll have the sky on the upper half and 2 snowy hills on the lower half. I placed the hillside stencil on the first pencil mark I did before to mask the top of my panel. And I am going to start at the very bottom. You saw it on the thumbnail, I decided to go full pink on the background. So to make the snowy hills, I am using spun sugar and kitsch flamingo Oxide inks. I am applying spun sugar first, just at the bottom of my piece of paper. Next, I am going to add a little bit of kitsch flamingo that I will blend with my spun sugar blending tool. And I am not blending the inks up to the stencil to keep some white spots and have this illusion of snowy hills. So I covered the snowy hill with the stencil, and here I am placing another hillside stencil on the second pencil mark. I am going to repeat the same steps using the same Oxide inks. And again, I am not inking the paper up to the stencil in order to keep white spots on the snowy hill. So the snowy hills are done and they look quite pretty. Now I am going to mask the bottom part of my panel and create a darker and contrasting sky using kitsch flamingo, picked raspberry and seedless preserves Oxide inks. I am going to start along the stencil with kitsch flamingo. Next I am going to add picked raspberry and I will finish with a little bit of seedless preserves at the very top to get the same purple-pink color as the Candy Cane Lane pattern paper. And as always, I am going back and forth with my blending tools several times to achieve a nice blending. And the inking is done. Now you know what I am going to do. It's time to give more interest and life to this landscape. and I am going to start with some water droplets on the sky. Next, I am going to smoosh my picked raspberry and seedless preserves ink pads onto my glass surface. Mix them with some water and then add more splatters to the sky using my trusty slim brush. Now let's move on to the lower part. I am mixing some kitsch flamingo oxide ink with water, and I am using my brush again to add light pink splatters to my snowy hills. For the last details, I am going to add sparkles and falling snow all over my panel using liquid stardust and Copic opaque white ink. One after the other, I am going to mix a drop of each liquid with a couple of water drops, and I am going to splatter the whole panel. Now let's set this panel aside to dry, and let's move on to the coloring. I stamped everything on Neenah Solar White cardstock using Fawn jet black ink. I used the matching dies to cut all the images, and I am going to color them using my Ohuhu markers and my graphite brush markers. I am starting with this cute snow mouse, and everything that is supposed to be snow, I am going to color in light shades of pink. With my darker shade, I am following the lines. With my light shade, I am blending the darker shade towards the inside of the image. And with my colorless marker, I will blend the colors towards the outside of the image. This way we get a nice pink halo all around the image, and we still get that snow illusion with the white spots in the middle of the snow mouse. So I am done with the coloring, and before I start assembling everything, I am going to stamp my greeting on a simple wavy banner that I cut out of a paper from the textured canvas pink paper pack. I placed the banner back in its negative spot and put the stamps diagonally on the banner. And I am going to play with each end of the greeting. I am bending them until the stamps follow the curves of the banner. So everything looks good to me. I am going to treat my paper with powder. This will help the embossing powder stick to the ink only. I am using Fawn clear embossing ink to stamp my greeting on the banner. Next, I am going to sprinkle white embossing powder on the banner. And finally, I am using my heat gun to melt and set the powder. So now it's time to start assembling everything, and I did a few things off camera. I cut the scalloped wheel out of Bristol cardstock, applied picked raspberry oxide ink and added the same textures as my background on half of it. I also cut a scalloped wheel out of holographic cardstock and used the circle die to cut the inside. And this holographic scalloped frame, I am going to stick it on the pink wheel, and this will create a nice shiny edge to it. So here on the left we have the background. In the middle we have a simple white reveal wheel panel that I cut without the arch window die. We have a small circle, the scalloped wheel we just did, and we have a mini brad. I am going to put the brad through the small circle and then through the wheel, and I am going to open the brad to keep both pieces together. I am going to add 2 mm foam squares on the small circle at the back of the wheel, just like so. Let's remove the backing papers. I am going to place the wheel behind the panel, making sure that only the holographic edge is peeking out. And I am going to layer my background on top of the white panel to stick the wheel to this white panel. The next step is to add a bunch of 2 mm foam squares all around the wheel. And when it's done, I am going to attach my background and complete the whole reveal wheel mechanism. I cut a couple of pretty panels to stick my reveal wheel panel on. The one I am holding here is pixie dust cardstock. I am going to stick it to the beautiful purple-pink stripe paper from the Candy Cane Lane paper pack using liquid glue. Next, I am going to attach the reveal wheel panel and then the whole thing onto a white card base. Before I attach the images, I want to add my greeting. And to bring more shine, I cut the wavy banner a second time out of holographic cardstock. I am going to stick both pieces on top of each other using 1 mm foam squares, shifting them a little bit to get a cool shiny border below the pink banner. I am going to attach this fun banner at the bottom of my panel using 1 mm foam squares again. And then all the images using 1 mm and 2 mm foam squares and liquid glue as well. Here I am going to stick the snowballs inside the arch window so they both can move. Since those images are pretty small, I cut a couple of 1 mm foam squares in half and placed them at the back of the snowballs. And I am just attaching them just like any other images. So as you can see, I added the speech bubbles and a scattering of snowflakes. Now I want everything that is snowed and even more places to sparkle, so I am going to add liquid glue on the spots I want to shine. And then I will sprinkle fine glitter on the glue and let it dry completely. The last final thing I want to add is a tiny drop of glossy accents on the Christmas tree lights, and then I will set my panel aside to completely dry. And by the magic of technology, the liquid glue and glossy accents are totally dry. So I am just going to go all over my panel with a fluffy brush to get rid of any excess of glitter. And that's it, our little snowball fight Christmas scene is done. And I just love how cute and sweet and magical it turned out with all those beautiful purple-pink shades. I hope that you like it too. Thank you so much for stopping by and for watching this video. Have an amazing day and see you next time. Bye!